Hi everyone, welcome to week one. This is History 1115, Introduction to Western Civilization, the Origins to 1500. Our first week together, there aren't a lot of assignments, it should be pretty straightforward. In this video, I'm just kind of giving you an overview of what we're doing in this class, what it means to study history, the sort of history we're studying, the sort of focus we're going to have in our study of history, and why it's important and helpful. So first of all, we begin with me. I'm Dr. Richard Allington. You have in the syllabus and also in Blackboard contact information for me. You have my email address. You have my office hours if you're within range of campus. If you email me, I will get back to you within 12 hours, typically within 24 hours on the weekends. What we're doing in this class is an introduction to the study of history. And a lot of people think of history as something that's difficult, that's challenging, and certainly it is, but it's also something that's natural. It's something that we all do, we just do it at different levels. If we think about our homes, if we think about the homes and environments that we enter into, if it's a person's home, typically you will see photographs, even if there are only a few of them there. And what's the purpose of those photographs? Um, Oftentimes, they're to remind us of our identity. They're to remind us of who we are and where we come from. It is an act of history, maintaining those photographs. Choosing, how do you choose which photographs to put up? What are you trying to say about yourself? This is an act of historicizing. This is a way of doing history, even though it's on a very local, personal level. In your home, through social media. What's the driving force of social media? More than anything else, it's photographs. That's why Instagram has been so successful. People want to see the world through someone's eyes. How is someone imagining and conveying their existence and their identity? So history, doing history is something which in some ways is very natural, in some ways which is done by everyone. What is not necessarily natural, what is significantly more challenging, is when we move beyond our own families, our own immediate identities, and we try and look at a broader swath, a broader spectrum of society and the world. That's what we're trying to do in this class. So in this class, it's not as though we've just made a new Facebook friend or a new Instagram contact, and we go, and this is very common, at least as I understand it, we go and look through this person's pictures, or if there's an event that we went to, we look at the pictures from that event, we look at the way that event was recorded. This time we're doing that with the whole civilization, the civilization which we in New Mexico are a part of, Western civilization. We're looking at snapshots, the way this civilization has defined itself. What are the parts of the civilization that have survived, that have been most influential? Because looking at the photos is about telling ourselves, where did we come from? This is what we're doing here. We're looking at past societies, past ideas, past human beings that have shaped who we are, that have shaped our identity. And so this is the study of history that we are carrying out today. We're not only asking, what does it mean to be me? What does it mean to be a member of my family? We're asking, what does it mean to be a member of this civilization? And civilization is over thousands of years, huge construct. It's something huge to grapple with. It's not easy, but it is something that is really, it seems to be really quite natural for a human being to do. So this is what we're doing. What about the materials that we're going to do it with? We have primary source documents, we have a textbook, and we have different types of sources. You'll need to purchase the textbook. Um, the primary sources I will provide for you in PDF form. I will also provide you a PDF of the whole source book with all the sources in there, so you have everything in one place if that's more convenient to you. And you'll find these either in the weekly modules, or rather both in the weekly modules and in the documents panel under the documents tab on the left hand side of the home page. A textbook and a primary source are two different things. A primary source, a source written by an eyewitness, by someone who is there, a first-hand account, the most valuable historical source because it gives you the perspective of someone who is there. It's the least filtered by other later perspectives. A textbook is a collation of primary sources filtered through other primary sources and secondary sources, all brought together to try and make this manageable, to try and make it the material something that you can read and you can understand. And so a primary source is a much more valuable source, but a textbook is a much more accessible source. That's why I have provided you with readings from both. You read the textbook when you're having trouble understanding and accessing a topic in order to get a ground level understanding of the topic. You'll read the primary sources in order to go into greater detail, in order to understand these historical topics in more depth and from the perspective of those people who are at the heart of the moments and the ideas that they record, so that you have direct access to the people who wrote about these events and these ideas. What are the learning outcomes of our time together? The first is to understand the narrative of Western civilization, to understand the narrative and the identity of Western civilization from the origins to 1500. It's a huge span of history, and it's an amazing story. It's a story of how human civilizations arose from a situation where, as far as we can tell, humans were living essentially like animals to build some amazing structures, castles, cathedrals that we still have today, that we still appreciate today, to build kingdoms, nations that still exist today, to build ideas, philosophies, religions that still influence our world today. So it's a fascinating period of history. It's fascinating that we're studying things that were developed thousands of years ago that still shape our world today. And I'm going to emphasize a number of different sub-themes within this outcome of learning the narrative of Western civilization. We're going to look at geography. We're going to look at the influence of geography on the development of civilizations. How have human beings interacted with their environment? How has their biological environment shaped their understanding of society? We're going to look at political identity. What does it mean to belong to a city, to belong to a state, to belong to a country, and to be different from another city, another state, another country? So we're going to look at geography, we're going to look at identity, we're going to look at government. How are people, what are the different models for ruling over a particular political entity, a city, a state, a country? What are the challenges they come with? What drives the creation of new modes of government? What are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? We're going to look at religion. This is a period where religion is immensely important. It's important throughout all of history, of course, but this is a period where we see significant changes in the way religion is practiced. We see the emergence of some of the most important religions in the history of humanity. So we're going to look at understandings of religion. What is the relationship of religion to society? What does religion provide to a society? Why do societies embrace religion? What is the relationship between religion and government? The other theme that we're talking about. So we're looking at geography, political identity, modes of government, religion, and lastly we're going to look also at technology and education. How have changes in these fields shaped human societies? So these are some of the sub-themes we're going to look at in understanding the narrative of Western civilization. We're also going to keep in our minds a bigger question of What makes something Western? What is it to be Western? If we're talking about Western civilization, it's one of a number of large civilizations in the world. What does it mean to be Western? What is different about Western civilization? How does the role of Western civilization within the world, how does that change over time? It changes dramatically, to the point where when we leave this course, Western civilization will be primed to really begin to dominate the rest of the world. There will be, in assessing this part of the course, in assessing whether we are meeting our learning objective of understanding the narrative of Western civilization, there will be quizzes every week that you can take as often as you like based on the lecture, and there will be 2 essay-based tests. So you'll have the essay questions in advance. One of the essays will be more like sort of essay you would expect to take on a test. The other will be more like a paper where you'll spend a lot of time, you'll complete multiple drafts, complete and edit multiple drafts. 2 other important themes. The first theme is to learn the narrative of Western civilization and the different sub-themes that are going to shape that I've explained so far. The second main theme is to learn how to read historical texts. How valuable is it to learn how to read and to understand the way other people very different from ourselves, read and communicate? So this is a hugely important skill. It's a way to understand, grow, have a much broader understanding of society. And to this end, we'll have discussions each week, discussions of the primary sources that I provide. I encourage you to post early to the discussion boards. There's a minimum number of contributions you're expected to make, and to post often and to remain active throughout the week. Don't leave everything to the end. Don't do everything right at the beginning and then forget about or just absolve yourself of participating in the discussion in the future. Thirdly, and lastly, our last important goal: learn to write about historical texts and movements. So not only are you going to understand what people coming from a very different perspective, coming from a different time, coming from a different situation to you, you're going to learn how to understand what they say. You're going to be able to convey that analysis to other people. You're going to be able to say, here's what this source is like. Here are the different components of this source. Here's how you analyze it. Here's what we should take away from this source. Again, another vital skill. It's not only valuable for a history class, important though that is, it's also valuable in many, many fields. Highly important communication skill. You learn how to critically analyze texts. And so there will be writing assignments, typically probably one every other week, to prepare for the more paper-like essays that you'll write, one at the midterm and one at the final. And these will be analyses of the book-length sources of Euripides the Barcae, which I've assigned for the midterm, and the Song of Roland, which I've assigned for the final. Finally, just a few notes on policies. Assignments must be turned in on time. I will deduct 10 points for every day the assignment is late. I will not accept any assignments that are a week late. I'm happy to excuse you, to give you extensions when they are justified, but you must communicate with that with me beforehand. If there is a reason that I can excuse or give you an extension on a late assignment, I'm happy to do that, but I have to hear from you before the due date that there is a problem. Lastly, avoid plagiarism, don't cheat, and I am looking very much forward to our time together and to learning more about Western civilization with all of you. Thank you.